brushing teeth is very similar, but again, you know, if you spit your toothpaste out into a sink, that requires gravity, and so that is something that we have to manage a little bit differently up here, whether it's into a cloth or something like that. But the actual brushing of your teeth is pretty much the same up here. And then taking care of hair is a little different too when it comes to using shampoo and things like that, because we don't have a shower, we don't have a way to rinse it out, and so we have to use little water bags and kind of squirt it into our hair and then use a towel to dry it off.
What is your favorite planet, if each of you could describe that?
All right, I am obliged to tell you that my favorite planet is Mars, because I have this crewmate of ours, Jessica, we call her Wadi, who is a geologist, and she's worked a lot on Mars and knows everything about Mars, and so she would be very disappointed if I didn't tell you that all of our crew thinks that Mars is the best.
Okay, Bob, are you going to say the same thing?
Yeah, I think it's. I agree. Mars is awesome, and certainly that's the way. That's where NASA's going, and that's we're looking to go and explore there. But honestly, one of the things that really amazed me when I got up here is how amazing the Earth is. And so I think that truly is my favorite planet. Looking back at it now, it is the most beautiful thing out there. There's the black of space and some other amazing things out there, but the blue marble that is the Earth is absolutely incredible, and so that is my favorite planet.
Nice. Comer Children's Hospital in Chicago asks, what is the capacity of the International Space Station?
Yeah, that's a good question, and there's a lot of different ways to measure that. An analogy that I've heard quite a bit is that it's about the size of kind of a standard American 3-bedroom house, and so that's about the volume that we have here, that we live and work in during the entire duration that we're here. We typically have 7 crew members up here. I think there have been as many. What's the high number? 13. Yeah, maybe 13 when the space shuttle was up here. So we've had a lot of people on board. We had 11 when we first got up here, and then when we hand over with our replacement crew here in the next month or two, we'll have 11 more people up here as well. So those are exciting times and a lot of fun having that many people on board.
Nice. Mount Sinai Kravis Children's Hospital in New York asks, is it ever scary to be in space, and how are you not scared?
Yeah, an interesting question. I don't think that we find it scary. It's, the space station is our home, is a little bit special. And obviously it's in a very special environment because we're up here in space, and outside of space station, humans cannot survive. And so we rely on this wonderful machine that surrounds us to keep us alive. But we know that we have a lot of guardian angels, all our flight controllers on the ground. They get a lot of information from space station all the time. Like space station talks to them, kind of via the satellites that we were talking about earlier. All the satellites, not only they bounce back our voice, but they also bounce back all the information about space station. And so they make sure that, space station is healthy, so that, space station can keep us healthy. And so, we're not really scared about being in space. We actually enjoy it.
Great. Can you describe a little bit the trip from Earth to the space station, as far as you feel taking off in the rocket? And I'm not sure if both of you have experienced re-entry yet, but if you could elaborate on that as well.
Yeah, so this is my first space flight, so I only know half of the journey so far. Samantha, this is her second space flight, so I'll let her talk about re-entry. But the experience on launch was it was just absolutely amazing. Our crew flew up on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket aboard a capsule named Freedom, and it was amazing. When the engines lit, the rocket started vibrating. You could tell we were moving right away, and we just started getting faster and faster. And about 2.5 minutes in, the first stage shuts off, and it's instantaneous. And so we go weightless for about 5 or 6 seconds while the stage separates, and then the second stage lights off, and we start getting pushed back in our seat. And that was the crazy part. That last like 2 minutes of the ride was just phenomenal because we were accelerating so fast. And right around the time where it almost feels like you're out of control and you're just accelerating at an incredible rate, it shuts off again and you're in orbit. And it was absolutely amazing. And then that was our chance to unstrap and go look out the window and see the beautiful planet below us. So it was absolutely an amazing experience.
Yeah, and re-entry is quite a ride as well. What happens is that we are up here and we fly really, really fast. How many miles? 17,000. Sorry, I know it in kilometers. 17,000 miles per hour. So that is an incredible velocity. It means that we, just by virtue of moving that fast, we have a lot of energy that is stored within us, within our bodies, within our space vehicle. And so what we have to do to come back down, we have to get rid of all that velocity. And the way we do it is we use the atmosphere to do that. Just the drag that you generate by digging into the atmosphere slows you down. Now, where does all that energy go? It has to go somewhere, right? And so you can even see it where it goes. It goes into heat. So the atmosphere around you heats up so much that you look out the window and you literally see flames dancing outside of your window, which is pretty amazing. And that slowing down also means that you are really pressed hard in your seat, kind of like during launch, right? When the rocket launches you, you have that acceleration that it feels like you're pressed down into your seat. And you feel the same when you come back, except that in that case, it's the atmosphere slowing you down. So that when you, open the parachute, you're not that fast anymore. And then the parachute slows you down that last bit. And then you fall. On my first flight, I landed on solid ground in Kazakhstan. And this time, I will have this new experience of landing in water. So I guess it's not landing anymore. It's a splashdown.
Thank you. Well, that's all that we have. I do want to tell you, Scott Kelly's a friend of mine, and he texted me this morning and wanted me to say hello to you both. On behalf of all the children watching right now in the children's hospitals, I want to say thank you, and my children watching at home. Thank you for your time again and for everything that you both do for the space program.
Well, thank you so much. It's an honor to get to speak with you. We really enjoyed our time with you today. And to all the kids out there, our thoughts and prayers are with you, and we just thank you for the inspiration that you are and the courage that you all show as well. And we really appreciate the chance to get to spend some time with all of you today.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Samantha.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you to all participants from Lollipop Theater Network. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.
Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Station is ready for the event.
Meet the press now. This is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Chuck Todd with Meet the Press Now. How do you hear me?
Hello, I have you loud and clear. How about me?
I am ready to go. So I will begin now. First question is simple. This is always an honor to do these things. Jessica Watkins, walk me through a day in the life. Tell me about what an average 24 hours is for you.
Yeah, so it seems like a simple question, but actually what's interesting about it is that every day up here is different. And that's one of the true privileges of being up here, is that we get to have our hands in so many different cookie jars, that every day we could be waking up and doing a lot of science, doing maintenance, we exercise as well, or doing any number of activities with our international partners. So every day is different because of just how much the diversity of things that we're doing up here on the ISS. Even within each one of those categories, in terms of science, our recent visiting vehicle, SpaceX 25, the Dragon that just came up about a week ago, brought with it so much new science that we've gotten to dig into in the past week or so. As well as kind of the robotics piece of the external payloads that SpaceX 25 brought up as well. So we have a lot to keep ourselves busy up here.
I'm curious, tell me about downtime. How do you find downtime? Do you schedule it? You talked about exercising, and I get that, but reading, binging TV shows, tell me about your downtime.
Absolutely. We are human beings and definitely need our R&R, our rest and recovery. Though up here when we say R&R, we usually mean remove and replace as part of a maintenance activity. But the other kind of R&R is important as well. And so we have lots of different avenues to do so. We have an amazing team of people on the ground that help make sure that we have all different kinds of entertainment available to us, the ability to call our families and people on the ground. And then, of course, the most fun activity we can do up here is look out the window. Watching the Earth go by just does not get old.
I imagine. I want to ask you about sort of the news of the day having to do with the space station, which is Russia's announcement that they are no longer, when I guess their side of the contract is up in 2024, they want to pull out. Talk us through how important the partnership is with Russia. What is your day-to-day interaction with cosmonauts?
Absolutely. You know, the international piece of the International Space Station is such an important part of what makes the ISS function and as successful as it has been and will continue to be. Our international partners are what makes the station run. We have our European Space Agency astronauts and team of folks on the ground. We have Samantha Cristoforetti as one of our crew members on Crew-4, as well as the CSA, Canadian Space Agency, the Japanese Space Agency, and then our Russian colleagues as well. And so that international cooperation is really what makes the ISS great, and that interdependency amongst each other for our different expertise, our different experiences, our different even just equipment and resources is what allows us to accomplish this great thing and these great things that we're able to do on the ISS that we would not be able to do alone.
Can the space station go on if Russia pulls out next year or in 2 years?
You know, NASA is certainly committed to the goal of continuing the life of the space station out through 2030, and I am confident in the teams of folks at NASA and in our other international partners to continue that cooperation to keep ISS running.
You're the first black woman in space for America. the significance of you being this role model, you being this pioneer, and the importance of it to you?
Yeah, I think this kind of milestone comes as a result of and as a tribute to the women astronauts and the black women astronauts who came before me and laid the foundation. There have been several black women astronauts who have gone to space. This just happens to be the first time a long-duration mission. But I think it is also, as well as a tribute to that legacy, it is also a testament to the exciting future ahead. And I think as NASA continues to pursue exploring deeper into our solar system, I just am honored to be a small part of that exciting legacy.
Our first astronauts almost all had to come from the fighter pilots school of thought. Now, of course, as more experiments are necessary in space, as we do more, there's a wider expanse of folks. You're a geologist. It's obvious why having a geologist with the ability to live in space is necessary. What other occupations do you expect NASA to tap into to go to the space station with you to help, say, solve climate change?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and you're absolutely right that we need people from all different experiences and backgrounds and expertise to help push us forward and to innovate, and especially as we start to work towards going to the moon and eventually to Mars, we are going to need all different kinds of skill sets. So you mentioned scientists, so scientists of all types, especially up here on the International Space Station. What we do day in, day out, as we kind of mentioned, is science, and science of all kinds. We do biological science, physical science, thinking of combustion and material science, as well as looking at human research. So one of my crewmates, Chell Lindgren, is an emergency physician. And having a doctor aboard, certainly on the ISS, as well as we start to think about even longer duration missions, is going to be a really important role to have filled, just for the safety of the crew, and as we start to learn more about how the human body responds to microgravity and long duration spaceflight. We will certainly need engineers, as we always have, as we continue to maintain the space station, and certainly in the future we'll have equipment that needs to be maintained as well as just all kinds of people that we will be needing on the ground as well. We end up kind of being the tip of the spear of an amazing team of people on the ground at all of our different NASA centers and our international partners. And each one of those locations, each one of the...
Well, in my left hand I have a feather. In my right hand a hammer. And I guess one of the reasons we got here today was because of a gentleman named Galileo a long time ago who made a rather significant discovery about falling objects in gravity fields. And we thought that where would be a better place to confirm his findings than on the moon. And so we thought we'd try it here for you. The feather happens to be appropriately a falcon feather.
This is NASA TV.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. I'm Sandra Jones, and we're here today to talk about the upcoming Crew-5 mission, where 4 astronauts will launch to the International Space Station as part of NASA's Commercial Crew program. We're going to hear from a few folks off the top, and then they'll give their opening remarks, and we'll move right into our question and answer session with those media in the room, as well as media on the phone bridge. I'm going to start off by introducing our participants, and then I'll hand it over for opening remarks. Joining us today in the room is Catherine Leaders, the Associate Administrator for Space Operations Mission Directorate at NASA headquarters in Washington, Steve Stitch, Manager of the Commercial Crew Program at NASA Johnson, and Joel Montalbano, Manager of the International Space Station Program at NASA Johnson. We also have 3 folks joining us virtually today, and those are Benjamin Reed, who is the Senior Director of Human Spaceflight Program at SpaceX, as well as Hiroshi Sasaki, the Vice President and Director General of the Human Spaceflight Technology Directorate at JAXA, and Sergei Krikalev, Executive Director of Human Space Programs at Roscosmos. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kathy for some opening remarks.
Well, I always know when I'm sitting here with Joel and Steve, we're getting ready to fly people, and so super, super exciting time in human spaceflight right now. But first of all, I wanted to also talk about the fact that, you know, we always talk about spaceflight being a team sport, and this news conference is going to exemplify that, how it is a team sport. First in August, just to underscore that, we have multiple exciting activities going on. First of all, today we have a NASA payload flying, ShadowCam, flying on the Korean Pathfinder lunar orbiter. Very exciting mission for us with a new partner that we have. And then coming up is on the Russian EVA on August 17th, followed by SpaceX 25, our cargo mission coming back on the 18th, just packed full of the science and payloads and an EVA suit that we're bringing down to be able to assess the EVAs and get ready to go do our EVAs again. So very, very, very exciting time. And as you guys know, we got a big event coming up at the end of the month with rollout of Artemis 1 mission and then launch of that mission on the 29th of August. Very, very exciting time. And then I haven't even gotten into the ISS events coming up. So in September, we're heading into our campaign of our first round of integrated crew missions with the new SpaceX vehicle. And so we're very, very happy that we have Frank Rubio flying up on the Soyuz on September 21st. And then we have this multinational crew going up with Nicole Mann being a female commander, leading Josh Koichi from our JAXA colleagues, one of our JAXA crew members, and then obviously Anna, who we're very proud to have flying on our missions. So this is again a sign of our international collaboration and us working together as a team to go conduct our missions. So let me just finish off by once again talking about this is when we're exemplifying how we continue to lead and partner in human spaceflight and across the missions going forward. And with that, I'm going to introduce Steve Stitch, who is our Commercial Crew Program Manager.
Thanks, Kathy. It's certainly an honor to be here today, and coming off of a busy spring, it's another exciting time getting ready for our 5th crew rotation flight and our 4th crew handover coming up in a short few weeks. You know, our team is dedicated to every flight, making them as safe as possible and continuing to dive into problems. Right now, we're targeting a launch no earlier than the 29th of September. I suspect we'll adjust that date a little bit as we get in a little closer due to the proximity to the Soyuz operations. We understand how important that operation is. Most of the hardware for the flight is already down in Florida. There is one component that we still have to deliver, SpaceX needs to deliver down to the Cape, and that's the booster, the first stage booster. It is at McGregor, Texas, and it's actually going to go through a hot fire test and a proof pressure test here later this week in preparation for shipment to the launch site in a little around a month from now. Of course, that booster had a little bit of damage during shipping. We worked through that and repaired a few components. The NASA and SpaceX team worked seamlessly to remove and replace the inner stage and a few other components on that vehicle and get those tested and ready to go fly. The Dragon spacecraft, we're going to refly Endurance, which was the Crew-3 spacecraft, and that is in Dragonland and going through processing. The heat shield has been mated. You know, we've had a few issues with heat shields in the past, making it through their acceptance testing, and this one has made it, and it's ready for flight. The Dragon spacecraft, probably the biggest new thing on this flight is the forward thrusters that we use for the big maneuvers. We're going to reuse all those for the first time as we embark upon more reused components for both Dragon and F9. We are super excited to be here in Commercial Crew. We're excited to fly Anna for the first time. It's very exciting to fly a Russian cosmonaut, and we're looking forward to that and looking forward to a great flight when we get to that point. And I'll turn it over to Joel Montalbano.
Hey, thank you, Steve. And again, welcome to the Crew-5 pre-launch press brief. You know, it seems like just yesterday we were here talking about Crew-4 and Steve Stitch's birthday, launching on that day. And tomorrow marks 100 days for Crew-4 on orbit. And that crew has been extremely busy doing the utilization and research, the technology development for exploration, as well as our commercial low Earth orbit activities. And, you know, with Crew-5, we're looking at about a 5 to 6 month mission. Generally, we have about 250 to 300 experiments for the crew to do. And again, looking forward and preparing for this mission. As Kathy mentioned, we have a number of activities this August. She mentioned the Russian EVA on the 17th. Looking forward to SpaceX 25 return on the 18th. And then, as many of you are well aware, just a few weeks ago, we were in Moscow and signed the Integrated Crew Agreement. And so that Integrated Crew Agreement provides for a Soyuz and SpaceX mission, one a year in 22, 23, and 24. So we're excited to look forward to this September, as Kathy mentioned, with Frank Rubio on Soyuz on September 21st. And then that Soyuz will return on the 29th. And as Steve mentioned, we'll be looking to launch the Crew-5 after that. Again, no earlier than 29th, but we're working to probably move that a few days to the right. Last week, I think everybody's aware that Congress passed the CHIPS and Science Act of 2022, which included a NASA Authorization Act, the first in 5 years. And included in that was basically codifying an ISS extension. And so with that behind us now, we'll be working with our international partners as they go through their governmental processes on ISS extension. So once again, it's excited to have Crew-5 up there. You know, it's incredible. You look on board, the crew members are always smile on their face. You know, the work they do and the work they do on orbit, the work they do to benefit people here on Earth is just amazing. I can tell you that the teams at Johnson, the teams at Marshall, the teams at all the NASA centers, as well as our international partners are ready for this mission, and we're excited to be talking about it with you today. With that, let me hand it over to Benji at SpaceX.
Great. Thank you, Joel. It's an honor to be here, as always, and great to see Kathy, Joel, and Steve all there. Sorry I'm not with you guys in Houston at the moment, but we're here in Hawthorne getting ready for this great flight coming up. And we're really looking forward to flying Nicole, Josh, Koichi, and Anna. This will be a mission of firsts. It'll be our first female commander for Dragon, and also the first time we fly a cosmonaut. So that's always exciting. Crew-5 will be our 8th human spaceflight mission, which is constantly kind of mind-blowing to me to think about how far we've come in this partnership with NASA, with Commercial Crew Program, and with ISS in just the last few years. It's also our 7th specific human spaceflight mission to the International Space Station. As part of making that happen, along with our cargo missions, we have 4 Crew Dragons in our fleet and 2 Cargo Dragons, with a 3rd Cargo Dragon coming on later this year, getting ready for CRS 26, as Joel mentioned. This will actually be the second flight. Crew-5 mission will be the second flight of the Dragon Endurance spacecraft, which previously flew on Crew-3 to and from station. I'd like to take a quick moment to talk about a couple of items that we were paying attention to in preparation on the hardware for this mission. One of them was some transport damage that occurred on the first stage, on our booster stage of the rocket. While in transport, the booster stage came in contact with a bridge in the route, basically on the way down between Hawthorne and Texas and McGregor. And we assessed that damage. It was actually a fairly minor incursion, but it still caused some damage. We decided to replace the composite interstage and some of the other components on that first stage. We went through a very robust process of analysis and test to assure that stage would be ready to go and absolutely safe to fly the crew as we do for every mission. We want to make sure it's as safe as we've all certified it to be, and that we're confident in flying the crew members. Nonetheless, the stage will go through its full testing round down at McGregor, and it's doing that right now. So we've gotten through all of our analyses and our assessments. We've gotten through all of the replace or repair that we needed to do, and now we'll put it through a rigorous standardized tests to make sure that it's ready to fly on its way, and then head it on down to Florida. So that'll be good. Another thing that I wanted to mention was that there were some findings on the return of the Crew-3 parachutes. Really just one finding. There was a small bit of damage discovered on a single main canopy of the chute system. We believe that what happened there was a little bit of the overall parachute system came in contact with that canopy, caused a small bit of damage to the canopy itself. There was actually no impact that we could measure, that we could see in terms of overall performance of the vehicle. Certainly the crew on Crew-3 during the return were never at risk. And there was no significant change in the environments that were detected during Crew-3. This is within this kind of contact, this kind of a little bit of damage is all definitely within the performance capabilities of the parachute system, and within our expected analyses. However, as always, in an abundance of caution, and always looking to improve and further increase safety for the crew members and reliability for all of our missions, we are continuing down the path of doing analyses and testing, and jointly in bringing NASA along very closely with that to ensure that there's nothing else there that we're concerned about, and particularly really to help us improve and see what we can do to even further improve the safety of the parachute system. But based on all of the data and assessments that we've done so far, we are confident that there is no risk coming from this to the team, that this crew on station, Crew-4 that's on station that needs to return, and then also the Crew-5 vehicle when we're getting ready to launch it. So just wanted to make sure that we mentioned a couple of those items that we've been tracking. But again, everything's on track for this mission and on track for keeping the crew safe and launching them safely and bringing them home safely to their families at the end of the mission. Kathy mentioned it earlier, but I think it's great to give a quick shout out to our Falcon and launch teams and everybody at SpaceX, and also our partners on the Korea Pathfinder Lunar Orbiter, or KPLO mission, which will be launching to the moon in just a few hours. Again, it's really exciting to meet all of what we're doing together and all of these great partnerships like the International Space Station and all these great folks that were here on the call right now. And I'll note, just as a side note, that today's launch will be the 34th mission for SpaceX this year. And we had launched 31 last year. So that's amazing. So go teams, and thank you to all of our customers and partners and their trust. And specifically today, I want to thank NASA, JAXA, Roscosmos for your trust and your partnership. certainly want to thank the crew members and their families for their trust. And of course, a big shout out and thank you to all the SpaceXers and their families for everything that you do every day to make this possible. We are grateful for the opportunity to fly Crew-5 and looking forward to it. And of course, bringing Crew-4 home safely. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to JAXA Director General Sasaki.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. I'm Hiro Sasaki, Vice President of JAXA, responsible for human spaceflight and space exploration. First of all, on behalf of JAXA, I would like to sincerely appreciate the NASA leadership and all the members, including SpaceX, who are working so hard for the Crew-5 launch preparation and continuing the ISS operations. I'm very pleased that astronaut Koichi will board the Crew-5 with US astronaut and Russian cosmonaut and participate in the long-term mission in the ISS. This is his 5th flight, highest number of flights made by Japanese astronaut. It is a first flight for the 3 crew members who will be onboarded with Koichi. I'm confident that his extensive experience will be a great assistance. I hope he will achieve this mission with all crew members as one team. During his stay, JAXA plans to conduct various utilizations. I would like to show 3 items based on the open platform partnership program between Japan and the US. First, material property measurement using the electrostatic levitation furnace for a better glass manufacture. Second, robot programming competition in which about 1,400 students from 12 Asia Pacific countries and regions participated. Third, rodent habitation research under partial gravity for future human lunar exploration. In addition, as an original initiative of JAXA, we will conduct a combustion experiment under high O2 concentration that will contribute to fire safety in future space exploration. JAXA will continue its effort on Kibo from a wide range of perspectives, including the contribution for better life on the ground and technology demonstrations for future space exploration. Since the Crew-1, Japanese astronauts have been onboarded on the Crew Dragon every year. Astronaut Furukawa is also signed up for upcoming flight. In addition, we are currently in the process of selecting new astronauts from more than 4,000 applicants. We expect to announce the result of selection during Koichi's stay, and he will hear the news in the ISS. We will continue our effort to ensure that Japanese astronauts will keep playing an important role in progressing human space exploration and development. Thank you for your attention. I'd like to hand over Sergei Karukharov, Executive Director of Roscosmos.
Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги. Мне очень приятно видеть как знакомые, давно, много лет уже знакомые лица, так
faces that
новые лица, которые
have known for many years, as well as new faces that I'm only getting to see at this conference for the first time.
Я хотел бы, может быть, немножко пояснить причину вот этих, как мы называем, перекрестные полеты или совместные интегрированные экипажи.
Why the need for
об этой программе мы говорили уже много лет.
Cross flights where you partner astronauts flying on other partners' vehicles. Recently, an agreement was signed to this effect, to enable astronauts and cosmonauts fly on partner vehicles. The reason for this is that we are working in extreme environments for both hardware and people, and we always strive to increase the reliability of the program. And this is done by supporting each other and providing redundancy. Earlier, we had shuttles and Soyuz vehicles to deliver cargo and people to and from the station. Then we had a period of time when only one vehicle was available. Now we have more vehicles available for delivery of cargo vehicles, and with that we would like to move on to the arrangement where crew members from one partner can fly on vehicles of another partner, and this increases the sustainability and reliability of the program, because this ensures that both US and Russian segments will always have professional crew members available to fly and support the operation. As far as training is concerned, our crew members are still in the final stages of training. There will be several more events for integrated crews in Russia and in the US. And I am confident that this mission will open a new page for our cooperation, where our cooperation will be even more reliable. Thank you.
And thanks to our briefers for those initial remarks. As a reminder, we'll be taking questions on the phone bridge as well as here in the room about the upcoming Crew-5 mission to the International Space Station. If you're on the phone, please press *1 to add your name to our queue and ask a question. Once your name is called, please state your name, affiliation, and to whom you'd like to direct your question. If you do find that your question about Crew-5 has already been answered, please press *2 to withdraw it. Let's start on our phone bridge with Marvin Marshall with Nighttime News Space Report.
Hi, my name is Marvin Marshall from the Nighttime News Space Report. Thank you for having us today. So I guess my question goes out to Benji here. Now, for Crew-5 here, are there any upgrades? I know we talked about upgrades on the Falcon 9. Now, what are some notable upgrades that we can talk about that you guys have done here on that Crew-5 capsule since launching on Crew-3? Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question. One of the things that I love about this now being the 8th human space flight and the 7th to station is I feel like we're starting to kind of lock in the, a good configuration of the vehicle. But that said, we're constantly hungry and looking for, everything we can do to make all vehicles and all operations safer. And taking all the lessons learned from each mission. So we do expect there to, kind of be a constant flow of certain upgrades or changes or things that are, coming out of lessons and like I said, making things safer. In general, there's not a lot of major new upgrades though to the capsule for this mission. What I will say is that we have a couple of first-time reflight items. The forward bulkhead Draco engines. This will be the first time we refly those engines for a NASA mission. And I believe those previously flew on the Crew-3 mission before. And then also on the windows, our interior window panes, the pressure panes, these will be the first time that we refly those that particular item on any mission. So we're always looking for ways, again, to improve and update, but also to maximize reusability when it's safe and when it's the correct thing to do, because reusability long term ultimately improves reliability because it allows us to learn as we fly again and again. That said, there are also new items on capsules, and so for this flight, this has a new heat shield, new pods and seats, and of course, we always, for human space flight, we always fly new parachutes for NASA. Hopefully that answers your question.
Great, thanks. Next up, we have a question in the room. Mark?
Thank you, Mark Carreau for Aviation Week and Space Technology. I believe I'm addressing my question to Joel. If you get the Morris Moore spacesuit back and can address any concerns, and we're able to begin, scheduled spacewalks, what sort of activities kind of come first or with urgency? Is it working the solar arrays? Are there some other things in addition, or just some sense? And I don't know if you have a schedule or not, but sort of a bit of a timeline. Thank you.
Good question. You know, so our plan is to get the spacesuit home on SpaceX 25, like we said, coming home on the 18th. Our goal is to get to planned EVA capability such that we could do the spacewalks to support the 2 new solar arrays coming up on SpaceX 26 later this year. And so what we'll do is we'll bring that suit home. The team will need about 45 days or so to kind of take a look at the suit, do some of the analysis on the suit, take a look and make sure that what we're seeing is kind of doesn't give us any smoking guns of, you know, we have some assumptions of what's causing the water. And then bringing the suit home will allow us to confirm that. But then the plan is to go ahead and move into the solar arrays. So we'll have the first, we'll do about 3 EVAs. The second 2 will be to install the 2 solar arrays. The first EVA will be go out there and install some support structures for the next set of EVAs, not for these 2 solar arrays, but for the 3rd set of solar arrays. But that'll get us some practice, get out there, and then we'll go ahead and install the 2 arrays that are brought up on SpaceX 26.
Great. We'll take another question from our phone bridge. We have Elizabeth Howell with space.com.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for your time. This will be for 3 people, a person from NASA and also the representatives from JAXA and Roscosmos. Could you give us the latest about the Russian changes and the participation in the space station and how the agency partners will be managing the transition? Thank you.
Well, let me start. We had a very good multilateral control board. It's where all the partnerships get together and talk about their current plans. And we had it last Friday, and each of the partners went through and talked about where they are from their working through their final approvals. Joel obviously, gave a summary in his opening remarks on where we are from our perspective. We're getting legislation through the Congress that affirms and gives us direction to continue the space station through 2030, and obviously still needs to get final buy-off from the president. But all of the other governments are also working through their plans and incrementally looking at support. So I would say it was very helpful to hear where everybody was from their progress. I think all of us are looking at the planning, laying in the next steps for getting approval. Obviously, in some cases, there's multiple steps, just like for us as we're working legislation. We've got to wait and see kind of what the government desires each of us to do. So I think to be fair, they're still in their process of getting approval, and the goal would be to talk about their progress at our next MCB, which will be planned in the next 6-7 months.
Okay. I also joined the MCB, and JAXA now continue to work closely with international partners to ensure the stable ISS operations. And for the ISS extensions, JAXA conducting the assessment of the technically, and we don't have any issues of the ISS extension. So we want to continue the supporting the ISS program with the international partners. That's all.
Ну и с российской стороны я хотел бы продолжить то, что говорили мои коллеги,
I would like to echo the same sentiment that my colleagues have expressed. The station was designed initially for 15 years, and the operation has been extended a couple of times. Now, all of us have agreed to operate the station through 2024, and in order to continue past that, the technical condition must be evaluated carefully. which is now being done by the Russian specialists. Of course, the station will have an end eventually. New spacecraft will replace the ISS, and we are looking into projects for the new station. But for now, we are working on extending the operation on the ISS. We don't know for how long yet past 2024. But until 2024, the work will continue nominally and in accordance with the international agreements. If there is a technical reason to terminate operation of a particular element of the station, we will, of course, coordinate that with our partners per our interface procedures to make this transitional period as seamless as possible for all program participants.
Next up, we'll take a question in the room. Gina.
Sarah, ABC News. Steve, what does planning look like for the other vehicle you hope to launch this year, Starliner?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about Starliner. Thanks for the question. You know, we're still in the middle of reviewing the data from that flight and from the OFT-2 flight. That should wrap up here in the next few weeks, and then we'll look forward to what's the next step relative to baselining a launch date for that. I suspect we'll move into next year a little bit in the next few weeks. The vehicle's coming along well. That crew module for the CFT vehicle is being processed at the Crew and Cargo Processing Facility. The parachutes are actually installed for that vehicle already, and the interior work is progressing well. The crew's doing training already for that flight, and the service module's being built up in preparation for that flight. The flight software testing and finalization is underway. In fact, we just approved between the NASA and Boeing last week a few changes to the software coming out of the orbit flight test. So, you know, I think, you know, we'll baseline a date early next year in the next few weeks, and then we'll move on from there. Quite a bit of work still to go, I would say, but it's progressing well. The NASA and Boeing team is working extremely well together on that flight, and we're excited to get that first crewed flight operational very soon. So.
And like we promised, we'll be doing an update, a focused update at the end of August, and plan on, just like we've done, just like today, we'll give you a status on kind of where the team is and getting ready for that mission too.
Our next question comes from Marcia Dunn with the Associated Press.
Oh, hi. Yes, my question is for Sergey. Assuming the International Space Station is still working well and everything is holding together, what is your best understanding of when Russia might pull out of the partnership? Would it be closer to 2024 or 2030? And for the NASA officials, I'm wondering how much additional stress resulted from last week's post-2024 announcement by the new space director of Russia, since it was coming on top of the continuing tensions with Russia over the war in Ukraine. Thank you.
So maybe, Sergey, I'll start. I think, Marcia, I actually feel like like I talked about, we had a really good multilateral control board. Obviously, there's a continued partnership that we have across the board, and this partnership's been very, very important to us in all kinds of, under different kinds of conditions. And I think the team's been carefully working through, like Sergey said, first the technical assessments. We've obviously done our technical assessments on our side through 2028, which is what supported our ability to be able to go and make the recommendation first to the White House and then have that carried forward over to the Congress, and is really supporting kind of the current legislation that's upcoming for us to extend all the way to 2030. Obviously, all the partners, you know, our intent from a NASA perspective is obviously to stay in LEO and continue to use the station extension as a continuance while we're also developing our commercial LEO platforms. And I think that strategy has been consistent across the board, and obviously other partnerships are looking at that strategy. You know, we need to continue to do this step by step. as we all know, that there's a process for each one of us to go through first technically to assess it, and then lay in their integrated strategies and how to work and what their strategies are in low Earth orbit. And so I think this is a continued process for each of us, but what we found out last week, and like I keep talking about, I don't know if people realize that boards are exciting things, but boards are really where, we come and talk together, and it was very heartening to hear the progress and the support across the board from each of our partnerships for us to continue to work together in space and to continue to look at and plan together for our LEO work that we're going to be doing in space.
Perhaps I will add to Kathy's words. Indeed, cooperation is very important in a program like this for all partners. As far as the statement for 2024, perhaps something was lost in the translation, but the statement actually said that Russia will not pull out of the program until after 2024. This means up until the end of 2024, there will be no changes. And after 2024 may mean 2025, 2028, or 2030. And the specific concrete decision about termination of the program will be based on the technical condition of the station and the assessment of all partners.
Our next question is on the phone bridge, and it comes from Isam Ahmed with AFP.
Hi, thank you for doing this. This question is for Benjamin Reed. I was wondering, is SpaceX looking at an evolution of Dragon that can perform reboost and or attitude control for the station? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Our contracts with NASA are for carrying crew and cargo to and from the station, and we're very excited to stay focused on that. Certainly, we're here to serve NASA, our customer, and the international partnership in whatever is the best way we can, but we're keeping our eye on the ball, which is very much focused on crew and cargo missions.
Our next question comes from Jeff Faust with Space News.
Good afternoon. This is a question probably for Kathy or Joel. You mentioned the integrated crew agreement covers one flight a year, I believe, through 2024. What are the plans to get Starliner included in that agreement so that you can do 2 flights a year and not have to toggle between integrated and non-integrated crews? Thanks.
You want to take it? Yeah. Go ahead.
So our plan is after we get past the CFT mission, we'll do an update to the agreement and work with our Russian colleagues such that our long-term goal is to have integrated crews on all the missions. But we wanted to get a couple of the Boeing missions moving forward, and right after CFT, we'll be putting that in work. But everybody understands kind of the long-term goal. We just are doing this in steps.
Okay, great. We do have another question on the phone bridge from Martin Bales with Czech News Center.
Hello.
We can hear you, Marvin.
This is Martin from the Czech Republic. I was wondering if at the board you mentioned, or another time, there will be a question for Ms. Luders and Mr. Krikalev. If you have discussed the event when Russian cosmonauts displayed the Donetsk and Luhansk flags, have the NASA and Roscosmos resolved this disagreement? Thank you.
So I think, there's obviously rules, and we have agreements on the different aspects of activities we do on the International Space Station. And I think that's a continued discussion item, and that we continue to work with our partnerships. And I think, we have a partnership that we continue to strengthen and enjoy, and we're always looking forward on how we continue to enrich that partnership and continue to meet both of our objectives.
And it looks like our last question on the phone bridge is from Marvin Marshall with Nighttime News Space Report.
Hi, my name is Marvin Marshall from the Nighttime News Space Report. Thank you for taking another question here. My question goes out to JAXA here. Now, you had mentioned the Kibo Robotic Programming Challenge, the Kibo, I think it's RPC there. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Are we going to be performing another competition while Crew-5 is on station? Thank you.
Sorry, I'd like to confirm your question. We plan to hold third competitions during the Wakata states, Koichi states. And what kind of competition are you talking about?
Yeah, most certainly. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I think it's the Kibo, KIBO RPC Robotic Programming Challenge that JAXA does there, and I was really just curious if there's going to be another, live stream competition while Crew-5 is on the space station there. Thank you.
Yeah, we are during the Kibo Programming Challenge. We plan to final round, maybe October and November timeframe. That's all from my explanations.
Thank you for that. We do have another question in the room. Mark, do you have a question? Yes. Okay.
Mark Carreau with the Aviation Week. I have a perspective question, and I'll kind of aim it towards Kathy leaders. However, among you, if you feel one or the other or more should answer, it's a perspective question on looking back to your earliest engagement with the station and sort of what you think, based on that, has happened in terms of the scientific research, the structure, and the international. Has it lived up, exceeded? I don't know, in a way, I'm asking, is this Apollo or more?
Well, I think what's amazing about the International Space Station, I'm definitely going to let Joel jump in too. But what I think is amazing about the International Space Station is how it was really created for establishing this peaceful endeavor, international peaceful endeavor in space. And honestly, it's been through these relationships with our international partners that we have really learned across the board and about teamwork, how to work together in space, that right now is taking us forward to our endeavors around the moon and on the moon and working together going to Mars. But what I also think is really amazing is that if we looked at how we're using space station today, and if I remember, I came into the space station program in 1999, we're doing things that we didn't even dream about doing in space station. We wouldn't have dreamed about commercial cargo vehicles. We wouldn't have dreamed about commercial crew vehicles. We wouldn't have dreamed about, other commercial laboratories on space. We wouldn't have dreamed about how, and I joke to Joel, I'm like, you're getting every ounce of value with new relationships, new partnerships with students, international partners, commercial partners, with our sister agencies. We are really fully utilizing this International Space Station now. We are actually kind of having problems because we're having people kind of fight about payload locations and what we're going on orbit. And we've got Earth instruments wanting to knock off Astro instrument. So it's actually like this really, really amazing time in the International Space Station program. When we had the R&D conference last week, when you saw all the excitement and all the new users and folks there across the board, it was so exciting. And it is really appropriate that conference was called the Decade of Results, because I kind of joke that We're seeing the numbers like of investigators, researchers, but I think what's really amazing is that, Kurt Costello said last week that I think we have, like 400 publications, but 185 of those have been in the last 2 years. So if you think about that, and I take that rate going forward, I told Joel, I said, I think I want to see like 15,000 papers done. You keep that rate, just keep duplicating that. We've got the log scale here, so that by the time we actually, like Sergey said, at some point we will have to deorbit space station. But man, do we want to use it. And I know the data we're getting on space station now will be used for tens of years, maybe 100 years out there, and people continuing to use that data for research. So Joel, let you jump in.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, one of my favorite questions, and I'm a little biased, but I think we have the data to back it up. We are doing amazing things. That Kathy mentioned, developing the commercial world. Besides being the blueprint for international cooperation and how what we do on board space station kind of sets the tone across the globe. The work we do on orbit, the life support work, the work we're doing on space station is going to help human spaceflight, not just the United States, but human spaceflight across the globe, leave low Earth orbit and go to, back to the moon, go to Mars. We have the luxury of flying, close to Earth and the ability to send frequent resupply ships up and down. But as we go further and further away from Earth, we won't have that luxury. So the fact that we're improving our life support system, the fact that we're looking to recover, 97, 98% of the water on board to reuse that. The work we do in our carbon dioxide removal system. We have a new carbon dioxide removal system, a number of little development test objectives that we're doing that's showing that we can have equipment that's smaller than what we launched on space station and be better on removing carbon dioxide. We're working an experiment with a company called Lambda Vision where we're printing retinas on orbit and using that to hopefully restore sight in other people's that have lost sight through their age. We have the NICER experiment on board that allows us to change how we do CT scans here on Earth. So just a number of examples, and it's just an awesome time to be working on the International Space Station. Thank you.
I think I'll add one thing. I mean, I have a different perspective with a space shuttle background and also commercial crew, but I also see station as a great platform to learn about operations for exploration. If you just look at the 3 missions we flew, different kinds of missions, different vehicles this spring, that kind of cadence, some of the operations we're talking about for exploration requires this kind of cadence of missions in a rapid succession of flights. I think we're learning from that. I think the operations of station relative to exploration, lunar surface base that's formed for international partnership, the kind of things we're doing in low Earth orbit really do apply to how you would operate on the moon. I think the operations of this vehicle has been amazing. If you just think about the partnership operating with JAXA, Roscosmos, Canada, ESA, and NASA all together operating, and it really is a platform to learn of how we could do that in the future for Mars or the moon. I think that operational learning has been tremendous. I don't think we thought in the early instances of station much about how that would grow and learn, how we would learn over time. And so it's not just what Joel talked about with the technology, but we have done a lot of technology with laser comm and things like that. Station's a great platform for technology because you can fly something up, it has power, data, and return it to the ground, and then if it doesn't pan out, you can fly the next version of it. So that's sort of my perspective.
Yeah, somebody the other day said, these missions on the moon are going to be really, really complicated. And I told them, and they said, we're really worried you're going to be able to get that done. I said, you should go live for like 1 week with Joel. I said, we've got the expertise here to do this.
Well, let's just say one more thing. We are opening the door to other partners. So on the Crew-6 next year, we'll have a UAE astronaut flying for a 6-month duration on board the International Space Station.
So we could go on for another hour, but I think we're about up. But as you can see, we could talk about this for a while.
Yeah, thank you. Great question. You can see that their faces light up. They're really passionate about this, so thank you. It looks like we have had one more question added to the phone bridge, and it is from Jeff Faust with Space News.
Hey, good afternoon. Quick question for Benji. There are some debris spotted in Australia that people have linked to the Crew-1 trunk section. I'm curious if you were able to confirm that's the case, and have you done any changes to the design or operations of the vehicle to prevent large pieces of it from surviving reentry? Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff, for the question. Yeah, so we did get reports of debris from a Dragon trunk that had landed in the outback of Australia, and we actually have a team that's going there to check that out, and we've been working closely, of course, with the State Department and with FAA and with the Australian Space Agency. The important news is, of course, is that there was no injuries, no damage, and even and also importantly is this was all within the expected analyzed space of what can happen. So, as we know, when we as a space industry, we launch things and they come back in. You have an expected path of where things may come down, and this particular debris was within that analyzed space, and it's part of the process that we do with NASA, with FAA, internally, and we use models that are all jointly approved to predict and plan for these things. Nonetheless, just like we do for launches and any return, and as we do all the time, we look very closely at the data. We learn everything that we can, and we always look for ways that we can improve things. But again, this was within analyzed space, within expectation, and we're digging into it.
Great, thank you for that. And thanks to all who submitted questions today. And thanks to our briefers for taking time out of their busy schedules to support today's briefing to discuss the upcoming Crew-5 mission to the International Space Station. We hope you'll stick around for our next briefing just a short time from now, where you'll have the chance to hear from the Crew-5 astronauts. That briefing will begin at 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern this afternoon. Thanks again for joining us. That will wrap up today's briefing.
Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Yeah, and station's ready for the event.
Lollipop Theater Network, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
I can't hear you. Station, this is Ryan Johnston with Lollipop Theater Network. How do you hear me?
And hi there. We hear you loud and clear. Welcome aboard the International Space Station.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we sure can hear you. We got you loud and clear. And welcome aboard the International Space Station.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bob and Samantha, for taking time with us today on your busy schedule. Thanks for all that you do up there for the space program. I'm Ryan Johnson. I'm with Lollipop Theater Network. I'm a board member, and we bring movies and entertainment to pediatric patients nationwide. And today we have some questions from some of the children in the children's hospitals, if you'd like to answer some questions. First question comes from Alana from UCLA, Santa Monica. And she would like to know how space was made.
Wow, that is a great question and a very deep question, and I'll say that's one of the reasons we're here. Is I think scientists and all of us aren't really sure how the universe and how space was made, and that's one of the things that we get to research here on the International Space Station. Is we're a great observatory for lots of different instruments that look out at space and also down at the Earth to answer lots of questions just like that. So bottom line is, I would say we don't know yet, but we're all working to try and find those kinds of answers.
Great. Lana has another question. How can we communicate from Earth to space?
Hey, we have antennas on the space station, and those antennas that point actually higher up than the space station is, way further out. There are satellites, communication satellites. And so our antennas point at the satellites and communicate with the satellites, and then the satellites bounce our voice back to Earth. And so that way we can communicate with people on the ground, just like with you today.
Nice. These next questions are from Children's Wisconsin, located in Milwaukee. How do you sleep without floating around?
So we each have our own crew quarters. It's like a small little closet almost that is our personal space. Has little doors on it, and everybody does it a little bit different. Some of us use bungee cords and strap a sleeping bag to the wall, and then when you zip yourself up in the sleeping bag, it keeps you in one spot. But some of us also like to just float around inside that, and so their sleeping bag just free floats, and you get in there and you just kind of relax, and your arms do something like this, and you float around. But it's not a real big space, so you don't have to worry about getting lost when you wake up or anything like that.
Samantha's demonstrating. Okay, what do you do in space for fun when you're not working?
So we play with our toys, as you can see. We also, many of us like to take pictures. We have a fantastic place on space stations called the Cupola, where we can look out the window, and we like to take pictures and videos so we can share that with folks like you on the ground. We also obviously like to hang out together as a crew. We are, up here, we are also, not only each other's work colleagues, but also each other's friends, and in a way, each other's family. And so, especially on the weekends, we hang out a lot together. We like to watch movies, and of course in our free time we also take the time to make phone calls to our loved ones, to our families and friends down on Earth.
Nice. How do you brush your teeth and how do you take a bath and shower in space?
Oh boy, do I wish we could take a shower in space. That is one of the things we miss. Showers and baths are very much reliant on gravity, and unfortunately, we don't have that ability up here. But what we do, we use wet, damp washcloths and things like that, almost like a sponge bath, and that's how we keep ourselves clean during the day. Brushing teeth is very similar, but again, if you spit your toothpaste out into a sink, that requires gravity, and so that is something that we have to manage a little bit differently up here, whether it's into a cloth or something like that. But the actual brushing of your teeth is pretty much the same up here. And then taking care of hair is a little different too when it comes to using shampoo and things like that, because we don't have a shower, we don't have a way to rinse it out, and so we have to use little water bags and kind of squirt it into our hair and then use a towel to dry it off.
What is your favorite planet, if each of you could describe that?
All right, I am obliged to tell you that my favorite planet is Mars, because I have this crewmate of ours, Jessica, we call her Wadi, who is a geologist, and she's worked a lot on Mars and knows everything about Mars, and so she would be very disappointed if I didn't tell you that all of our crew thinks that Mars is the best.
Okay, Bob, you gonna say the same thing?
Yeah, I think it's. I agree. Mars is awesome, and certainly that's the way. That's where NASA's going, and that's we're looking to go and explore there. But honestly, one of the things that really amazed me when I got up here is how amazing the Earth is. And so I think that truly is my favorite planet. Looking back at it now, it is the most beautiful thing out there. There's the black of space and some other amazing things out there, but the blue marble that is the Earth is absolutely incredible, and so that is my favorite planet.
Nice. Comer Children's Hospital in Chicago asks, what is the capacity of the International Space Station?
Yeah, that's a good question, and there's a lot of different ways to measure that. An analogy that I've heard quite a bit is that it's about the size of kind of a standard American 3-bedroom house, and so that's about the volume that we have here, that we live and work in during the entire duration that we're here. We typically have 7 crew members up here. I think there have been as many. What's the high number? 13. Yeah, maybe 13 when the space shuttle was up here. So we've had a lot of people on board. We had 11 when we first got up here, and then when we hand over with our replacement crew here in the next month or two, we'll have 11 more people up here as well. So those are exciting times and a lot of fun having that many people on board.
Nice. Mount Sinai Kravis Children's Hospital in New York asks, is it ever scary to be in space, and how are you not scared?
Yeah, how an interesting question. I don't think that we find it scary. It's the space station is our home, is a little bit special, and obviously it's in a very special environment because we're up here in space, and outside of space station humans cannot survive, and so we rely on this wonderful machine that surrounds us to keep us alive. But we know that we have a lot of guardian angels, all our flight controllers on the ground. They get a lot of information from space station all the time. Like space station talks to them, kind of via the satellites that we were talking about earlier. All the satellites, not only they bounce back our voice, but they also bounce back all the information about space station. And so they make sure that, space station is healthy, so that, space station can keep us healthy. And so, we're not really scared about being in space. We actually enjoy it.
Great. Can you describe a little bit the trip from Earth to the space station, as far as you feel taking off in the rocket? And I'm not sure if both of you have experienced re-entry yet, but if you could elaborate on that as well.
Yeah, so this is my first space flight, so I only know half of the journey so far. Samantha, this is her second space flight, so I'll let her talk about re-entry. But the experience on launch was it was just absolutely amazing. Our crew flew up on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket aboard a capsule named Freedom, and it was amazing. When the engines lit, the rocket started vibrating. You could tell we were moving right away, and we just started getting faster and faster, and about 2.5 minutes in, the first stage shuts off, and it's instantaneous, and so we go weightless for about 5 or 6 seconds while the stage separates, and then the second stage lights off, and we start getting pushed back in our seat, and that was the crazy part. That last like 2 minutes of the ride was just phenomenal because we were accelerating so fast, and right around the time where it almost feels like you're out of control and you're just accelerating at an incredible rate, it shuts off again and you're in orbit, and it was absolutely amazing. And then that was our chance to unstrap and go look out the window and see the beautiful planet below us. So it was absolutely an amazing experience.
Yeah, and re-entry is quite a ride as well. What happens is that we are up here and we fly really, really fast. How many miles? 17,000, sorry, I know it in kilometers. 17,000 miles per hour. So that is an incredible velocity. It means that we, just by virtue of moving that fast, we have a lot of energy that is stored within us, within our bodies, within our space vehicle. And so what we have to do to come back down, we have to get rid of all that velocity. And the way we do it is we use the atmosphere to do that. Just the drag that you generate by digging into the atmosphere slows you down. Now, where does all that energy go? It has to go somewhere, right? And so you can even see it where it goes. It goes into heat. So the atmosphere around you heats up so much that you look out the window and you literally see flames dancing outside of your window, which is pretty amazing. And that slowing down also means that you are really pressed hard in your seat, kind of like during launch, right? You know, when the rocket launches you, you have that acceleration that it feels like you're pressed down into your seat. And you feel the same when you come back, except that in that case, it's the atmosphere slowing you down. So that when you, open the parachute, you're not that fast anymore. And then the parachute slows you down that last bit. And then you fall. On my first flight, I landed on solid ground in Kazakhstan. And this time, I will have this new experience of landing in water. So I guess it's not landing anymore, it's a splashdown.
Thank you. Well, that's all that we have. I do want to tell you, Scott Kelly's a friend of mine, and he texted me this morning and wanted me to say hello to you both. On behalf of all the children watching right now in the children's hospitals, I want to say thank you, and my children watching at home. Thank you for your time again and for everything that you both do for the space program.
Well, thank you so much. It's an honor to get to speak with you. We really enjoyed our time with you today. And to all the kids out there, our thoughts and prayers are with you. And we just thank you for the inspiration that you are and the courage that you all show as well. And we really appreciate the chance to get to spend some time with all of you today.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Samantha.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you to all participants from Lollipop Theater Network. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.
Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Station is ready for the event.
Meet the press now. This is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Chuck Todd with Meet the Press Now. How do you hear me?
Hello, I have you loud and clear. How about me?
I am ready to go. So I will begin now. First question is simple. This is always an honor to do these things. Jessica Watkins, walk me through a day in the life. Tell me about what an average 24 hours is for you.
Yeah, so it seems like a simple question, but actually what's interesting about it is that every day up here is different. And that's one of the true privileges of being up here, is that we get to have our hands in so many different cookie jars, that every day we could be waking up and doing a lot of science, doing maintenance, we exercise as well, or doing any number of activities with our international partners. So every day is different because of just how much the diversity of things that we're doing up here on the ISS. Even within each one of those categories, in terms of science, our recent visiting vehicle, SpaceX 25, the Dragon that just came up about a week ago, brought with it so much new science that we've gotten to dig into in the past week or so. As well as kind of the robotics piece of the external payloads that SpaceX 25 brought up as well. So we have a lot to keep ourselves busy up here.
I'm curious, tell me about downtime. How do you find downtime? Do you schedule it? You talked about exercising, and I get that, but reading, binging TV shows, tell me about your downtime.
Absolutely. We are human beings and definitely need our R&R, our rest and recovery. Though up here, when we say R&R, we usually mean remove and replace as part of a maintenance activity. But the other kind of R&R is important as well. And so we have lots of different avenues to do so. We have an amazing team of people on the ground that help make sure that we have all different kinds of entertainment available to us, the ability to call our families and people on the ground. And then, of course, the most fun activity we can do up here is look out the window. Watching the Earth go by just does not get old.
I imagine. I want to ask you about sort of the news of the day having to do with the space station, which is Russia's announcement that they are no longer, when I guess their side of the contract is up in 2024, they want to pull out. Talk us through how important the partnership is with Russia. What is your day-to-day interaction with cosmonauts?
This is NASA TV.
Good afternoon and welcome to NASA's Johnson Space Center for today's Crew-5 Crew News Conference. I'm Megan Dean and we're pleased to be joined by the crew today. We have NASA astronauts Nicole Mann, Josh Cassada, JAXA astronaut Koichi Wakata, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Anna Kikina. The crew is scheduled to launch aboard the SpaceX Crew Dragon Endurance spacecraft no earlier than September 29th from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Now we'll take brief remarks from the crew, and then we'll go to media in the room for questions, media on the phone bridge, and to social media. So with that, I'll hand it over to the crew.
Thank you. I'm Nicole. I'll be the commander of the Crew-5 mission, and we are just excited to be here and to share with you in our Crew-5 and Expedition 68 mission. We are ready to go. And it amazes me each time I stop to think about the enormous number of people that are involved in preparing us for this mission. It's the facilities that provide these high-fidelity mock-ups, the software that execute the simulation, and the people that develop, execute, and organize all of those assets. Without you, we couldn't be prepared for the mission. You're a big part of making us successful, and know that we're going to take a little piece with us when we go out into space. And in these last few weeks before launch, we are excited and humbled to be a part of human exploration. And thank you to our families for supporting us during this busy time. Let's go Crew-5.
Hi, I'm Josh, and we're really excited to get to work. This is an incredible crew. I know a lot of people say that, a lot of crews say that, and I don't think they realize just how great it could be. We have 3 first-time flyers going to the International Space Station, and you know what's so great about this is we're doing it for something greater than ourselves. And those 3 first-time flyers, we're bringing a lot of energy to the International Space Station, which of course we're going to need to keep up with Koichi, who's anything but a first-time flyer. In fact, you're probably still getting your mail forwarded to low Earth orbit, I assume. But like Nicole said, we are incredibly grateful and honored to do this job, and we couldn't ask for a better crew to do it with. Uphill, downhill, and with the rest of Expedition 68 on board. Thank you.
Hello, I am Koichi. I am honored to be part of this wonderful international crew of Crew-5. And together we're strong, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone internationally in the ISS program, instructors, engineers who get us ready for this Crew-5 launch. And we have been working together and like a family, and I'm so honored to be here. So I'm very much looking forward to having time for half a year with my great crewmates on board. I don't know who the rookie is, but so they are well prepared and very technically capable, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Здравствуйте всем, меня зовут Анна. Я очень рада, что я являюсь частью большой программы международного сотрудничества. Я очень рада представлять свою страну в этом деле большом, и я счастлива быть частью этого экипажа. Я очень благодарна каждому и всем, кто работал, работает и продолжает стараться, вкладывать свои силы и трудиться, чтобы наша общая программа, наше международное сотрудничество, наше общее дело продолжало жить. Всем спасибо.
Thank you, crew. We're excited to see you on orbit. All right, we'll take questions from media and also from social media. If you have a question on the phone, please press *1 to ask your question, or *2 to withdraw your question if it's already been asked. If you are on social media, please use #AskNASA to ask your question. But we'll start here in the room. So we'll start with Gina. Please state your name and affiliation.
Gina Sinceri, ABC News for Koichi. What advice did Soichi give you? I mean, he's flown on Dragon. Did he say you need to know this about the capsule? What advice did he give you?
So both Soichi and Aki flew on the Crew Dragon flight, and the Crew-1 and Crew-2. They gave me all the tips. But since the spacecraft is actually all of us flew on the space shuttle and the Soyuz spacecraft, it's a very different spacecraft, very sophisticated, very automated, and it's very reliable system. And so I think I have to listen to commander and pilot and work with Anya as mission specialist, and then we work together. So that's the key. The communication is the key. That's what Aki and both Soichi told me.
All right. Let's take a question. Mark Carew.
Thank you, Mark Carew with Aviation Week and Space Technology. My question is for Nicole Mann. It's not too long ago that you were named to the Artemis team, one of the members. What does this experience bring to you, your resume, your foresight on potentially, I guess, or certainly leading being part of a lunar mission?
This is a huge part of our larger mission under Artemis to go to the moon and eventually to Mars. So what we are going to do in low Earth orbit is a stepping stone to achieving those goals of exploration into deep space. The technology development, the research that we'll do, some of the operations that we'll learn to develop and work with the ground. Understanding how we're going to do that from a further distance where we don't have the accessibility of the ground so often. And so I think we're all excited to be a huge part of that mission. We're going to gain a ton of experience in flying in low Earth orbit, and any of us could be assigned to an Artemis mission in the future, and hopefully we'll walk on the moon together one day.
Awesome. Okay, another question in the room. Yep.
Irene Klotz with Aviation Week for Josh and Nicole. You've had the unusual opportunity at this early stage to have gone through Starliner training and now also SpaceX training. Can you give us maybe like 2 or 3 specific examples of what you've gleaned from the 2 different programs, like just what's done differently or things that are in one program but not in another? Just some sense of the flavor of the difference between the 2 companies.
Yeah, you're right. We are in a unique position, having been trained on both spacecraft, and it is remarkable to see how 2 different communities approach and solve the same problem, not unlike we see with our international partners. We all have ultimately the same goal, but we all have our different strengths and weaknesses, and we can capitalize on those. So on the SpaceX side, of course, they have the heritage of having done a lot of cargo missions, right? So they have a lot of background there in ISS activities. Now, Boeing, of course, has a tremendous amount of background in human spaceflight in general. So to watch these 2 companies, again, build on the foundations that they already had, but also learn from NASA, who can kind of be the conduit and kind of steer the missions where they need to, is just a remarkable experience to see, and not something I was expecting as a test pilot, to get to participate on both.
I agree. It's really a unique opportunity to be able to be involved in the development and execution of both programs. And the common denominator that we see really are the people. You see some dedicated, some very intelligent engineers and operators that create these systems and provide these training platforms for us. And so it's really quite remarkable to translate or transition from one program to another. Similar to what Josh said about working with Koichi or Anya, we all have the same kind of baseline of training and understanding, and it makes it very easy then to jump into a new spacecraft, learn it quite rapidly, be able to communicate amongst your crew in order to execute that mission.
All right, thank you. We'll take some questions from the phone bridge. Let's go to Elizabeth Howell with space.com.
Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for taking my call. I just was wondering if you'd had some conversations with SpaceX concerning some of that transport damage that was happening on the first stage, the booster, and the changes to the spacecraft.
Absolutely. We have some very transparent conversations with them all the time. In fact, just before this was the mission briefing with all of leadership, and they talked very openly of the modifications, some challenges that they've had, the fixes, and the testing campaign. Everybody is certainly on the same page that the hardware needs to be reliable and it needs to be safe. And we have full confidence that NASA and SpaceX and the international partners are not going to put us on a rocket or a spacecraft that they feel is not ready to go. So it's very refreshing. In fact, this open communication that we have, nothing's hidden, everything's in the open, and it's nice to understand exactly what the situation is. So we feel very confident.
All right, we'll take another question here in the room. Go ahead.
Question for Anna Kikina. Similar to what Gina asked earlier, what advice did your fellow cosmonauts give you before this mission? And if you could go into a little bit how training has been in the past year for this mission, what has it been like? Thanks.
Я не могу сказать, что прямо советы какие-то получала. Основная польза от моих коллег была в совместной подготовке вместе с ними на тренировках, на подготовке, на лекциях, на совместном взаимодействии при отработке определенных действий на различных тренировках. Таким образом, я срабатывалась с ними, я училась работать в экипаже.
I worked with the crew together. It's not like they gave me some specific advice, but it was the process of working with them at the simulations, during the lectures, during the classes, and various other parts of the training that was the most important part of preparing me for this.
И я вообще считаю, что работа с коллегами из своего отряда, а также с иностранными коллегами, они в целом обогащают твой опыт как специалиста по возможности и способности взаимодействия и коммуникации как член экипажа.
And I generally believe that working as part of the team, the colleagues from our own cosmonaut team and the international partners, colleagues, that generally expands your views and helps you to develop new patterns of communication and new skills. Thank you.
All right, let's take another question from the phone bridge. Robert Perlman with Collect Space.
Hi, for Nicole and Josh, I was looking at your crew patch, and until recently it didn't have any names, so it sort of indicated how your crew came together late, or at least the confirmation of the crew. I wonder if you could talk about the design of it. Did one of you lead it? What it symbolizes, and if there was any talk about going back in, and since your flight has been delayed a little bit, adding in the crew's international flags to represent where each of you come from.
So we have two boys. Our oldest is 13 and our youngest is 11. And Nicole and I, this will be our first flight. We got here in 2013, and we've had an incredible career so far. As test pilots, it's just been incredibly rewarding. But along with that goes a lot of designing of patches at our kitchen table on behalf of these kids. And so there were a couple times that my oldest, who's a bit of an artist, put together some ideas, and I had to tell him, we might want to slow the roll a little bit. We've got some more flight tests to do before we're going to be able to put that one into action. So they actually worked initially on a design at our kitchen table. Of course, this isn't all theirs, but a large part of the Crew Dragon 5 and the commercial crew symbol coming behind the Dragon itself. That comes from them. We worked with some designers and got some input from the rest of the crew, as well as Nicole's son, who is largely responsible for our expedition patch. So as far as introducing the international piece of it, we didn't try to exclude anybody, and we didn't try to necessarily include anyone. This is specifically for us as a planet and as a society. And so I was just really excited that these kids got to put their crayons to use. It was really fun to watch.
All right, we'll take another question on the phone. Marvin Marshall with the Nighttime News Space Report.
Hi, thank you so much for taking my question today. My name is Marvin Marshall from the Nighttime News Space Report. It's an absolute pleasure to be able to talk to such a talented crew today. My question, I guess, is for all of you guys. What fun or interesting items did you guys pack in your PPKs that you'll be bringing to station? We look forward to watching you guys have an amazing trip up and stay on the International Space Station. Thank you.
Well, there are a lot of things that we pack, but I'm not an artist or anything, but I put some origami paper, so I hope I can make something in orbit and probably fly that in a Japanese module, and that's one of the things I'm looking forward to.
I did pack a little something special for my family, and I can't tell you about it because it would ruin the surprise. So.
I can absolutely tell you what I packed, and that's because Nicole doesn't get one of my 1980s movies references. So we're going to watch a lot of 80s movies, and particularly Fletch, every Friday, to make sure that she gets some of the jokes I've been making for the last decade.
Я люблю город, откуда я родом, Новосибирск, и очень хочу взять символ своего города, маленького человечка в коротких штанишках, веселого, с оранжевой прической, городовичок. Вот такого сделано руками людей, люди связали его.
I love my city, the city I was born in, Novosibirsk. And I am taking with you a symbol of our city, a small figurine, a little man called Gorodovichok. In little shorts and with orange hair, it will bring us joy on the station and to the people in Novosibirsk.
All right, we have another question here in the room. Irene, wait for the mic.
Irene Klotz with Aviation Week for Anna. As a member of Crew-5, do you have responsibilities on the U.S. OS program, or do you primarily transfer to the Russian crew?
В целом и в основном моя работа будет на российском сегменте Международной космической станции, но у нас есть с ребятами и перекрестные задачи, в котором я тоже буду привлечена. Например, быть ассистентом, помощником в EVA-операциях или при работе с СС-РМС робототехникой. Есть еще и другие некоторые научные задачи.
As a general rule, I will be working on the Russian segment. However, there are tasks across segments that I will be participating in. I will be assisting my crew members with the EVA activities, preparation for those. I will also be participating in the SSRMS, robotic arm operations. And there are a number of other tasks that I will be involved in across the segments.
All right, media in the room, if you have a question, please raise your hand. Media on the phone line, if you have a question, please press *1. We have a question on the phone from Marvin Marshall with Nighttime News Space Report.
Oops, sorry about that. I was muted. My name is Marvin Marshall from the Nighttime News Space Report again. I've got one question about the, I guess, the pre-flight meals. If you guys have picked those yet, what do you guys have in mind to eat before you guys go up to the station? Thank you.
I have honestly not thought about that one bit yet, which is surprising because I eat a lot of food. But
that's not what I said.
I think, yeah, to be honest, we've been just really extremely busy with our training program. And when we get into quarantine down at Kennedy Space Center, I know we'll have the opportunity to make some delicious choices. And hopefully we'll have some international food to enjoy for the meal we have prior to launching.
And it will be Detroit-style pizza.
That's what you're picking. And it will be pizza.
All right, now we'll take a couple of questions that have come in on social media. If you have a question on social media, you can ask using hashtag #AskNASA. Asher on Twitter is asking, what science experiments are you excited to participate in while in orbit? For any that would like to answer.
So I'm biased to a certain focus of science. I come from a physics background, and there's some really, really cool experiments on board right now. The AMS was the alpha magnetic spectrometer was one that I knew about as a fledgling physicist as it was being proposed, and so it's really amazing to be even a small part of that. Of course, we're not going to interact directly with the AMS unless it breaks, and then we'd be really excited to go fix it. But some others that are really interesting to me, the Cold Atom Lab is again a really interesting fundamental physics experiment in which we can see quantum mechanics at a macroscopic scale. These guys are sick of hearing me talk about it, but that is one that is also very near and dear to my heart. But we're really lucky. We get to do all kinds of science. There's some really cool biofabrication work that we're doing up there. Just next generation direct application back here on Earth, and I just feel really fortunate to be in another national lab. I started in one when I was in my 20s, and I'm back on one, and getting to do really cool stuff on behalf of everybody else is a really, really fortunate situation.
Space station is a wonderful asset for scientific research, and that benefits our life on Earth and also for the exploration. I'm really excited that station is an important test bed for our exploration, back to the Moon and Mars. And some of the experiments I'll be involved is liquid behavior of like oil type liquid in the low gravity environment with the Moon gravity of 1/6 G and then Mars gravity of 1/3 G, using a small centrifuge in the Japanese Kibo module, so it can simulate the Moon-Mars environment. And then the data from that will be fed back to the development of like a gearbox of like a Moon pressurized rover, for example, and also like a fuel cells, gas liquid separation in the low gravity, not the zero gravity. So station is a wonderful test bed for future exploration, and I'm so excited to be part of this experiments that will benefit us for exploration on the Moon and Mars.
All right, we'll take another question from social media for Koichi. What is it like viewing the Earth from space?
That's a good question, and I'm looking forward to seeing your first impression, because I still remember when I first flew and then I saw the beautiful home planet from the Earth. That was beyond description, and that was probably the most impressive view that I've ever had. On the space shuttle launch, we launched at night, and then as soon as the main engine cut off, when we first saw the Earth blue planet, it was so wonderful, such a beautiful planet, and I felt very lucky to be able to call this planet our home. So that's the impression that I had. Thank you.
All right. And we'll take a final question from social media for each of you. What age did you realize you wanted to become an astronaut? Or if it was not on your radar, what did you envision yourself doing when you were younger? Whoever would like to start.
I can start.
Go ahead.
Because probably I'm the youngest or the oldest, and then before they were born, I think I was 5 years old when I saw the Apollo 11 lunar landing, and at that time there was no astronauts. There were only flyers from the United States and from the former Soviet Union. So as a small Japanese boy, I thought it was impossible to be part of the human space exploration. But a few decades later, thanks to the international cooperation, I was able to come to JSC to be trained as space shuttle mission specialist and flew on the shuttle and the International Space Station. So I was so lucky to be part of this. But international cooperation is the key for the future exploration in space.
For me, I was a little bit older. I didn't have everything quite figured out when I was young, and so it wasn't until I was in my mid-20s flying jets in the Marine Corps that I realized that being an astronaut was not only something that was a possible dream, but actually something that's quite attainable. I think as a young girl, I just didn't realize that that was an opportunity and a possibility. And that's part of the reason I feel like outreach to the younger generation and getting the mission out of what we're doing on the International Space Station, our international cooperation, how important that is to the world, how important that is to this next generation, so that they realize not only can they achieve any dream that they set forth, but also what they need to do in order to bring our world together.
Being an astronaut wasn't always my goal. Although when I was a child, I met an astronaut, Joe Tanner, And sorry, Joe, if you're out there, I don't remember it. I was pretty young, but I believe the people who tell me we met. But what I really wanted to do was play Major League Baseball. And so that's what I did nearly every second that I wasn't studying. I was playing baseball. And when my fastball didn't break about 80 miles an hour, when that was very clear that that was going to be as fast as it would be, I needed to start looking for another job. And so physics is something that has always interested me, as well as aviation. And so it was at that point where I realized, wow, I'm going to do both of these things that I am incredibly passionate about. And if they happen to be a good fit to do this job, then so be it. But either way, I was doing something I loved. And so, again, really fortunate to be here.
К мыслям, которые передала до этого Николь, хочу добавить, что действительно очень важно осознание того, что ты имеешь возможность быть космонавтом.
I would like to add to what Nicole said about the importance of realizing that being an astronaut is an open opportunity for the young people.
Для меня дверями, открывшими такое понимание, стал первый в истории нашей страны открытый набор в отряд космонавтов, который показывал, что любой гражданин нашей страны может стать космонавтом. Именно тогда я это осознала и поняла, что хочу стать космонавтом. Мне тогда было 27 лет, вы спросили.
And for me, this moment of realization that I have the opportunity to become a cosmonaut, this moment occurred when Russian Space Agency announced recruitment of candidates to the cosmonaut corps. At this time, this opportunity was open to everyone, including myself. And to answer your specific question, I was 27 at this time.
All right, thank you. We'll take one more question from social media for Nicole. How does it feel to be the first female commander of a SpaceX Crew Dragon?
I feel very fortunate, and it's very humbling to be commander of Crew-5. We have an incredible crew to go up to the International Space Station. I think a lot of people sometimes will ask, how does it feel to be a female astronaut or a female Marine? And I think it's important that young girls realize that they have these leadership opportunities for them. But from an operational perspective, to be honest, it really doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man, or what country you're from, or your gender or your race. We are coming together as a human race. And our mission on board the International Space Station of developing this technology and research to benefit all of humankind is really what brings us together.
All right, well said. That will do it for our questions for today, so we'll wrap up. Thank you everyone for joining us. Please stay tuned to watch this crew launch to the International Space Station. You can watch them live on NASA TV, nasa.gov/live, or on the NASA app, and keep up with NASA on social media for the latest updates. Thank you for joining us, and go Crew-5.